Meeting is now live.
Yay.
Hold on and make sure that it's going on there so that we see that it's like a 20-second delay. There it is. We're here. Hi, Claire.
Hello.
So excited to be here with you, my dear friend. Hi, everybody. Those of you watching, these are 20 Seconds of Courage. Today is, what day is it today? It is Friday, the 27th of September, 2019, and I'm here with my dear friend, Claire. We met in a coaching program almost 6 years ago. That is crazy pants. And we've kept in touch and we've become friends, and she's over the pond. I'm sure you'll know in a moment when you hear her speak. She's got this beautiful accent. But we're excited to come to you and talk to you, just have a real conversation, have you guys listen in, and feel free to chime in with questions in the thread below. We're always happy to answer any questions that you might have. Today we're going to talk, when I'm doing these conversations with folks, it's an evolution. You guys are here watching it unfold imperfectly. And it's really my intention to model that. Like, sometimes you just have to start before you're ready, and you have to just show up and trust that what is meant to be, to happen, what is meant to be heard, what is meant to be said, what is meant to be learned will happen without you forcing anything or necessarily scripting anything. And this is a very unscripted, as you will know. So I asked Claire, I'm asking everybody that I speak to, like, what interests you? I have some ideas of who these people are and what I want to ask them. And then I also want to know what they want to talk about, because it's really a mutual exploration of what are the questions that we've had of each other as human beings, as people on the path to healthy, happy living. What questions do we have that we're sometimes afraid to answer? I know for myself, I often mute myself. You've probably heard me say this before, is I mute myself because I don't know how it's going to come across. I don't like to pry in people's business. I was taught, like, just be silent. Like, I wasn't taught to be silent, but like, be respectful. And what I find as an adult is I find sometimes I'm afraid that what I say won't come across the right way, so I mute myself. And so this is me unmuting myself. So it's always coming from a place of love and desire to learn more and to become a better person. So there you have it. So today I have this beautiful woman, Claire, with me, and we're going to talk all about work money, sexy money, homeopathy, and more. And you will see how that evolves. We hope that you'll stay with us, and feel free to share this if you find it interesting and informative. Feel free to share it with your followers, your friends, your family, and again, ask us any questions you have. I am streaming from Zoom, so I'll have to check back and forth, but I'm going to talk to Claire first, and then we'll look at questions if you have any. All right, and if you're watching the recording, just post them in there. We'll check back periodically because you'll tag us in there. So let me first introduce my dear friend, Claire. Hi, Claire.
Hello.
Claire, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Okay, so, well, you've already covered how we met. And we have met physically just the once, I think. Is that right? We met in Paris when we were on our coaching course together.
Was that the only time we met, or did you go to Miami too?
I didn't go to any of the others. So, but we have spoken a lot, and we've been social media friends and all the rest of it. So yeah. So I am living in Northern England. I have been involved in self-development, personal development, holistic healthcare, all that, since I was about 2021, which is a while ago. A while ago. But I'm also a musician and a music teacher. So I have been running those things side by side. Sometimes one thing has taken over more than another in my life. So that's me. I live in the most beautiful part of England, in the Yorkshire Dales, not far from the Lake District. People know those areas. So think Wordsworth, think Emily Bronte, all those people. Anything else you want to know?
No, I think that's awesome. What instrument do you play?
So I am a classically trained violinist, and I read music, an academic degree at Oxford University, Keble College, Oxford. So I was sort of academic music, but violinist. And then after just a short while, I did a little bit of work with a music-related program on television. When I just graduated, I did a bit of teaching, and then I got a job in a boarding school in the north of England, where I live. So that is like your private school. We say public school sometimes for that, but anyway, private school. So, you know, and I was head of strings and assistant director of music there for about 10 years. Then I had my son, and left shortly after that. And then I was a full-time carer for a while for my son. And then gradually, I've got back into working, kind of. No, I do. I work, but I work in lots of different areas. You know, I followed, so I trained while he was little. I trained as a homeopath, whilst continuing with a little bit of music teaching privately, and continuing with my playing. And what else? Oh yes, and I have, I do quite a lot of folk fiddle music as well nowadays. There you go. So that was a long answer to a short question, but it feels a bit.
I want to ask you, what sparked your interest in homeopathy?
Because it saved my life.
Tell me how.
Because so I was a high achiever and perfectionist. I'm sure
I don't know anything about any of those things.
And yes, so I was working hard as a student at Oxford. I'd worked hard to get there. I was also trying to become an adult, and it was my first time away from home. And I also had a lot of issues that suddenly came up for me. I'm adopted. I was adopted as a baby, you know, happy childhood, all the rest of it, but suddenly there's those questions when you go to university of, you know, who the hell am I? Mm-hmm. And in this case, without that rootedness that I'd had in my adopted family, I was like, well, who the hell really am I? I really don't know, you know. Yeah. So there was all that going on. And then I was in a relationship that became incredibly codependent, and basically I burnt the candle at all possible ends. I was trying to do inner work. I was trying to, not that I knew it at the time, I didn't even call it that, you know, I was just trying to deal with stuff in my head. I thought I was mad, actually, because there's so much going on. I had all my academic work, you know it. So I got very ill, and I had to take a year out from my studies. I thought I would never finish my degree. When I went to the doctors, they thought I had something that they called ME at the time, but they would probably call chronic fatigue syndrome or something nowadays. And when I said, okay, what do we do about this? They said, well, you need to rest, you know, as in go to bed, lie down, you know. And I said, oh, yeah, okay, how long for? And they said, oh, well, you know, we don't know, could be 10 years. I went, 10 years? No way. And there's nothing else you can help me with, you know. No. So anyway, I happened to be in a student house with a Danish girl who went for psychotherapy and homeopathy. Both those things, I was like, oh, this is weird, you know. But I was desperate. And so I started off by going for homeopathy. So I went to this really great guy in Oxford, and so he treated me as a homeopathic patient. He was also an osteopath as well, so he did some body work on me, and then after a bit I was persuaded that I might go to his wife, who was a psychotherapist. So I therefore got into everything big time. And she got me, and he got me back on my feet within a year. I completed my degree, and got on with life. Although life was never the same again, because that was my awakening, if you like. And so, yeah, so that's my background in how I came to homeopathy. I've used it personally since that moment. And then when my son was a baby, up until that point, this is actually quite a good point possibly for discussion, but I think those of us who perhaps woke up before the majority were the ones who were labelled mad and like insane or deranged or something like that. And so it took me a long time to start thinking that, for example, homeopathy was something that would really, you know, could work for everybody. I just thought, because I was slightly different, because my family thought I was different for doing all this inner work, that maybe I was suggestive, maybe it was placebo, all those arguments. But it's when I saw what happened with my son, when he had things like, he had really serious colic one night, and 2 doses of homeopathy later, he was, you know, we got him to the hospital, you know, and then I was treated like some over anxious mother, because this child, from being blue, you know, had gone to like just going slight cough. You know? And when I saw things like that, I went, right, I'm going to train in this. So I trained in it.
I see. So you're saying people thought you were mad because you were doing alternative?
Yeah.
And is that like sort of a cultural thing?
You know, in the 90s and in the UK and in the academia, and I mean, yeah, it was completely, you know, bonkers.
Yeah, I think there's still some of that here in the States. I think there's still, I think there, and I think overseas now it's much different. I know that Europe is a little bit more quick to adapt those, at least from my perspective. It seems like Europe is always a little bit ahead of us on the alternative opportunity of healthcare. I'm hoping now, you know, we're leading the way a little bit more. And I mean, I've lived my life holistically, and as much as I can. I find it fascinating that they were like, oh, go lie down for 10 years. I'm like, here in the United States, you'd be like, take this pill, take this pill, take this pill, take this pill, take this pill. Like, how many pieces of drugs can you take? Like, just like make you basically incapable of moving. Like, and then God knows what other side effects those things cause. You know, that yes, getting good night's sleep is important, but like, you're gonna go tell someone to sleep for 10 years, like,
well, I just felt
also not an option.
Yeah, I felt I was being given a label, which their label happened to be Emmy at the time. I was given a label, and then I was put in a corner, and I wasn't happy with either of those things.
Yeah.
I'm not happy with labels, full stop. I'm not happy with labels in my personal life, in my relationships, in my sexuality, what you name it. I'm not happy with labels. I mean, sometimes they're useful, right? Sometimes, obviously, you know, it helps to distinguish A from B, but a lot of the time the way we use labels are there's so much psychodrama behind labels, you know, like as soon as you label something, then you know, it unleashes this whole load of prejudices either in yourself or in another person. And
I think, you know, and you said something that just really sparked me. Like, I think labels are like, they trigger something in our programming, in our conditioning, in our programming, whether it's been passed on genetically, energetically, or verbally through our community, our family, however we've learned it, social media, the news, what people you hear talking. Like, I think that labels just trigger something in our head. And I think if we didn't know, like, that's a tree. Like, when I see a tree, my brain goes, oh, bark, branches, leaves, seeds in the ground, tall, crack. Like, I get all of these things. Like, what are the first things that come to your mind when you hear the word tree? Right? Yeah. Tall, branches, like birds, nests, you know, like, it's a label, and it triggers other things in the head. And I think that that's such a fascinating thing. If we didn't have labels and we just experienced, what would that be like? I don't think we even know what that would be like. I think it's almost like going into a place where maybe it's like going to a place where you don't speak the language. Yeah. And all the signs are in a language you don't understand.
Sure.
You have to use sensor, like a different sense, right?
Yes. So you'll be experiencing things energetically, and just as we talk a lot about being in the moment, and each moment is different, we'd be with the thing. with each specific thing, or each specific person, or each being, or each energy even.
I think that, wow, I'm getting goosebumps. I think that would be like really amazing to go like to the label free place.
Would be interesting. I mean, it could be confusing too, you know, like, I mean, instructions. Or,
how do we operate?
Where's the it's in the next to the
I know, in the thing next to the thing. You know, it's funny because my sister, if she's watching this, she'll get a kick out of this. Like, we often, our brains go faster, like our mouths go faster than our brains can keep up, and we don't always, like, we're just thinking so fast we can't get the words out. And so we'll be like in our we have a vacation home in the mountains, and we'll be up there cooking in the kitchen, and she'll be like, hey, Tracy, just get me the thing for that thing, and I know exactly what she's talking about, and vice versa. The guys are looking at us like, you said nothing, how did you know what she wanted? You gave no directions, no labels. Like, the guys are like, I can't. There's this like wordless communication, you know, that I think starts happening.
Yes.
So very fascinating. Oh my God, this is awesome. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit. Let's jump into this whole idea as a musician, as a homeopath, as a mom who, like, and we'll share a little. I would love for you to share a little bit about your family, your alternative family, if you will, the structure of this beautiful community that you've created for your son. But I want to talk a little bit about how you define money work versus sexy work for folks. I know that's kind of what I'm calling this video. I've labeled that's what we're going to be talking about, but I want us to get a little bit more specific as to what that is for you, and how have you navigated those two things in your life. But can you tell us first about Leo and this beautiful community. Claire was sharing this with me before, and I almost burst into tears because I just thought it was such a beautiful village that you've built.
So I have a son who is nearly 15 now. Can't believe that, but he is.
Happened so fast.
So Leo, is his name. Leo was born when I was in a same-sex relationship. We were both teaching in the boarding school, and Leo's dad, so if you want a label for that, the donor, but he's always been Leo's dad, he was teaching there as well. We're all great friends. I had always said, when I went into the relationship with my ex-partner, Anna, I'd always said, I want children. And she said, fine. And then one day I went, the time is now. I remember it being a really difficult conversation, actually. You know, it's like, okay. And then an even more difficult conversation is sitting down, you know, the potential father of your child, and saying,
it's like next door.
you know, before we started recording this, you said the thing about asking questions and feeling bad about asking questions. That's a really difficult question to broach. Anyway, so we had this child. I gave birth to Leo, and we were always co-parenting. And to start with, Anna and I were living together. Leo was with us. Every tea time where I live is like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. You know, dinner. Is that what it is for you? Anyway, in the evening.
It's less late. That's considered like late afternoon, early evening here.
Yeah, that's right. So, okay. So in the evening, in the early evening, Leo's dad, Alejo, would turn up and do tea bath bed. You know, so he would give him a bottle, bathe him, put him to bed, give me 2 hours off. And that's how it started, from the co-parenting. Even when Leo was very attached, I was breastfeeding, you know, 99% of the time. And then as Leo has grown, he has obviously spent more and more time with his other parents. Anna and I split up. She has, well, it's not a new partner now, but you know, she's with her partner. So Leo has two mums and a stepmom and a dad, and then I married a man, so called Graham, and so Graham is Leo's stepdad. He calls him Leo calls Graham ESF, which is short for evil stepfather. It's a term of endearment anyway. So we have this lovely big family. Alejandro is from Colombia, and so Leo is very happily bilingual and spends every other summer with his dad and his abuela and all his family in Colombia.
So, I mean, I think it's such a testament to this idea, and we were sharing this before we got on live, like this whole concept of it giving a child an expansive view of what family can be and is, right? We all say, oh, you know, it takes a village, but you've created this just gigantic village and a different perspective for this human that you've brought into the world to understand, like, family doesn't have one definition. Family is about love and connection and support and helping each other. And I think it's I am all for like your family, your chosen family, and that giant community that we create collectively together, all pulling in and building something and supporting. Like, what better thing to build than someone's life, right? Than supporting a human growing into this person who's going to have this beautiful experience of what the world can be, and then putting that out into the world and exponentially growing that. Like, it's really mind-blowing. I had never known that. For those of you watching, like, I've known Claire for 6 years. We talk all the time. Like she said, we met once, which is so crazy, Claire, because I feel like we have probably met like 17 times because we have developed a friendship over the years. Yeah. And so it's mind-boggling to me that you and I have only sat in the same room once. Like, I can't fathom that. That is going to change next year, my sister.
I know.
That is on my bucket list. I'm coming over the seas.
Great.
I'm coming to the UK. So, but I think that it's just a beautiful thing. Like, I just learned this about you, you know, and I think that's a testament also to what I was saying before, is like, there's things we don't know about each other because we're afraid to ask. Like, I don't want to pry about people's personal life. Like, I was taught, like, if people want to tell you something, they're going to tell you, but that's not true because people are afraid. And I think what happens is that creates a greater separation between us as humans. Have you experienced that?
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's quite interesting that you don't know that about my family. I guess we've been talking about things like coaching stuff and all that and work and, you know, I don't know, but because I've always been incredibly open about it, and yeah, it's always been something I've been very happy to talk about. And I was just you know, you talk about social conditioning and all the rest of it. Yes, I am absolutely socially conditioned in so many ways, but in terms of having a family that I want, it's very odd. Maybe it's because I was adopted myself as a tiny baby, but I know that family is what you create. And so I guess I just took it one stage further. I mean, don't get me wrong, my adopted parents were totally shocked about everything that I did to do with my family. They were just like, what? You know? But I never had that filter somehow. It was just like, I want to be with this person. This person's a woman. I want children. Okay, how do we negotiate this one? Okay, this is what we're going to do. And then the intent was always a close family. It was never that, you know, it's fine to, however people want to do it, absolutely fine. But for me, it was, when I spoke to Leo's dad about it, I said, I'm not going to ask for things from you, apart from the obvious, you know, apart from
the big obvious.
Really obvious. After that, I said, there's only one thing I'd like to have an agreement about, and that is that at some point, if you haven't had an involvement in Leo's life for whatever reason, if at some point when he's old enough he knocks on your door, you won't turn him away. Little did I know that Alejandro is the most like loving South American father, you know what I mean? He's like, my boy, you know, it's like, oh my goodness. And he has been there, well, from day one, being day one of conception. I mean, he's been there the whole way through. But I never had this preconceived notion of how we would be, and we would be compartmentalized, and it's evolved. It's been an organic family. And yes, I was just saying before, we had people who thought this was not a good idea, and in fact we were chased by the national newspaper, the Daily Mail, which seems ridiculous now, but at the time, oh no, you know, they were jumping out from bushes with long lenses and ridiculous. Anyway, so at the time, that's what we were.
So interesting. You know, I'm so glad that times are shifting. God willing, hope mostly for the better. You know, I think that there's still a long way to go, let's be honest, but we're definitely moving in the right direction.
Yeah. I just knew that we just had to, as you say, just carry on being family, and that's it. And you know, just living our lives. And people, when Leo was little, people would say things to me like, he's a remarkable child, in spite of his circumstances.
Oh my God.
Now they say he's a remarkable child because of his circumstances, which is really,
my gosh, that is really true. And I was saying that, like, I have goosebumps all over when you said that, because it's the truth. It's, you know, this children learn from the experiences that they're having, you know, from how you live and what you give them and what they're experiencing and the love that they receive. And, you know, from how they see the behavior. And I think it's so important. What you have done is created this giant community of love. It moves me, because I feel like we need, as a culture, now more than ever, we need that. We need like a family to hold all of us together as humans. And we need to create that amongst ourselves, you know, the divine and human coming together. I think, and I was just sharing this with someone else that I was just speaking with. It's like, you know, when we remember that we're 1% different and 99% the same, peace can happen. But we keep fighting over one tiny percent.
Yeah. And I think, you know,
it boggles my mind. Yeah.
As you were talking then, you know, and I was thinking about, I know how much time and love and effort you put into your family as well, being Tia, and, you know, how important you will be, you know, for the children in your life. And nowadays, I think, you know, we had this sort of strange gap where a lot of us were kind of going to different places, different countries, moving away from the rooted family, and that kind of had to happen, and broadens the mind and all the rest of it. But it had severed a lot of these community and family ties. But now we have, you know, wonderful social media and all the rest of it, and you know, we can keep in touch in ways that we haven't been able to up until this point. And that's where, yeah, all this thing about social media is dreadful. That's where it's a tool, a positive tool. You know, it's like a knife. It can prepare food, or it can cut somebody, you know.
Right. Exactly.
Can bring us together.
True. And I am the proudest villager, as you know. Like, my nephews are the lights in my life, and my friends' children, I love being around all of them. And I am a villager. I'm a true villager. So, you know, my cousins have children, and they're more like my nieces and nephews. And like, I feel like how I live and what I want to give is, I want to take from what I'm learning and give to them too, you know, as any parent would, you know. So I think that there's also been a stigma in life, and I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but I know in the United States, there's always been, at least my experience was like, oh, you're not having kids, there must be something wrong with you. I'm like, yeah, but you need people that are villagers that don't have their own kids. Like, that's not my, you know, that was not my thinking at the time when I made the decisions. But like, in essence, like, I shouldn't be like looked down upon because I chose not to have children.
No,
you know, that's a lot of times that is what happens. And my girlfriend and I talk about it, you know, there's like a stigma on, oh, you didn't have kids, you know, oh, you're not a parent. Like, I'm the best aunt in the entire universe. And you can ask my sister. You can ask my sister and my nephews. Like, I pour my heart and soul into those relationships. You know what I mean? So just because I don't have my own kids, like I change my schedule. I make space, I make time, and I am there and a support system, you know, and I think moms need that.
That was the point I was going to make. I was going to say, you know, you're such a valuable resource because, you know, I have experienced this. Luckily, you know, I've had these extra parents and grandparents all around. And once we got past the very little needy years, you know, when he needed my body for food, you know, and all that. As soon as we got over that, you know, Leo was out, and I was, as a very empathetic person, as a quite an introverted person. I probably don't come across that way, but I do. For me, the definition of an introvert is somebody who replenishes their energy by going inwards, and I give a lot outwards, and so I need to come inwards a lot. And having those other adults around enabled me to be a much better mother, because then I could be focusing on, you know, communicating with Leo about Thomas the Tank Engine or whatever, you know, he was watching on the television or playing with or whatever, you know, because I had my time to go and play the violin or write my journal or train to be a coach or whatever. So you're you know, applause and, you know, to you, because it's very important that we have other villages, as you say, to really help mothers and fathers and primary carers to be able to go and refill their well. Vital.
Totally. I think, you know, in our field, you know, for me in yoga and coaching, and a lot of what I do comes around self-care. And self-care is the first thing to go, especially for women. You and I have talked about this a million times. And I think that when we are filled up, that's when we can give from the overflow. But what happens is so many of us give and give and give, and we're giving from fumes, and that depletes us, and that then spirals back into, you know, you mentioned codependency before, but that's what winds up happening: resentment, anger, depletion, and then we get ourselves sick, and then we can't give to anybody, and then we make ourselves feel guilty because we're sick and can't give enough, and it's just like, it's this cycle that can go upwards or downwards, and you want that spiral to keep going up and expanding and becoming more, instead of depleting you and taking away. So and I think that that's a great segue, actually, because I think for myself, I know in my journey over these especially the last 4 years, I never realized self-care also included making money.
Oh, yes.
Like, and I know it's kind of like let's shift gears, but like, I never realized that until very recently. Like, I kind of realized it, but I didn't realize how much I wasn't putting my emphasis on that aspect of my self-care. Let's put it that way. That's really much more accurate way to say it. And I think of late, like, I've realized, wow, like, I want to be able to take care of myself financially too. It doesn't mean I'm not doing it in conjunction with my partners, you know, my business partners, my personal life, you know, my husband. So like, but that's a part of it. And I wanted you know, when I asked you, like, what were you interested in talking about? You said this brilliantly. You're like, let's talk about work, money, and sexy money, or sexy work and money work, I think is what you said. And I'm like, oh, that's good. So let's talk a little bit about that. What is your sexy work and what's your money work? Is that the word? Those are the terms you used, right?
Yeah. And to be honest, I got those terms from a coach called Rich Litvin. He makes that distinction, and I really resonate with it, and I have totally adopted those terms myself. So but yeah, for me, so obviously generally, sexy work is going to be the work that enthuses you, the work that, you know, you can't wait to get going on, the work that you think, I was put on this earth to do this. And money work, sometimes it can be the same. And sometimes it can just be, look, in order to do this sexy work, which isn't get quite going in terms of bringing the income in yet, I'm just going to do the stuff that I know, A, I can do, B, I'm pretty good at, and C, brings me some money in. And I think, you know, when I started off doing the life coaching, I mean, I was already very aware of law of attraction and all that. And I kept thinking I was doing something wrong. So I was investing all this money in myself. And yes, I was getting some clients, and yes, great. But, you know, I was lagging behind. You know, I was like, the money was going out faster than it was coming in. And, you know, okay, I'm happy for somebody to say, well, you weren't doing it right, or whatever, that's fine. But at some point, I sat myself down and I said, right, let's just be very grounded and very practical about this. This ain't going to be sustainable.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, somebody may choose to do it a different way, but I literally went, okay, I got my notebook out, you know, I keep a notebook, you know, like just like this sort of thing. And I started, because I'm quite creative. My husband is an accountant. I am not an accountant. So I had to do it like a journal. And I wrote on one side, you know, income, expenditure, and I did it every day, every day, for every penny that I spent. And on the other side, if I had things that I had to do, like move money to another account or something, or pay a bill or something, I would write it in longhand. Today I need to do this, because I realized I was still slightly scared about the whole money thing, and it wasn't working for me, and I was thinking I need a better relationship with it. So that's where I started, by being very practical. And so my money work, I knew was going to be my music teaching, which I'd always done. It could bring the money in. I'd never have to advertise. In fact, I have to send people away, you know, and yet, you know, it can be quite draining. It can be very stimulating, but it doesn't always, I used a great term, you know, it doesn't always feed me everything that I need, not all my nutrients that I need, you know. And so I made that distinction, and I am getting better and better at getting that balance. So this year I'm now doing 3 days teaching in the week, which leaves me a couple of days to do things like this. So today I'm talking to you, which is amazing, and I'm also able to free flow a bit more, because those of us who do teaching, and you know, you're teaching yoga or whatever, you know, or people who have appointments all day, that's all you do, you have appointments, so you're watching the clock and you have no time to let enthusiasm guide your life. And for me, I think enthusiasm for me is a very sacred word, because it means, you know, the God within, you know, it's energy coming from what I believe is the blueprint for your life, you know. And so if we're scheduling ourselves with like money work all the time, then we don't have that leeway to just settle and wait for the enthusiasm for something to bubble up. Conversely, if we're always going, I want to do that, 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 I'm going to do this program, oh, it's not working, I'm going to do whatever it is, you know, and we don't get grounded about the thing that consistently can bring us some money, that can just give us that little cushion. You know, we're not being kind to ourselves. You know, I realized I was stressed out the whole time because I was relying on my enthusiasm, the projects that had come from my enthusiasm, my sexy work. I was relying on that all the time, and it wasn't working for me. I think, oh, what's her name? Big Magic, Liz Gilbert. She writes about that in Big Magic, and she says something about she always said to her writing that she would never expect her writing to support her. And so for years, she did her writing as a devotion to writing, to her blueprint, to her enthusiasm, whilst making sure that she went out and did a job. And then obviously things have changed for her, which is what we hope, you know, your enthusiasm, the energy, the sexy work, the income starts to build up from that. But we all have to be realistic about where we start. And that's why I have had to be, and I still have to be. And this is where I am at the moment, and I hold up my hand. And you know, somebody goes, oh well, you know, by now you should not have to do any teaching. Well, that's kind of where I am. I'm happy to say that's where I am, and actually I quite enjoy it, because as well I find that my 3 days of teaching, I quite enjoy that doorbell going every half an hour, and you know, little so-and-so coming in and me having to teach C major scale, and you know, it's something I can do, and I don't have to think about it very much, and I can engage and with somebody, but I'm not having to, like with coaching, I'm not having to plumb the depths of, you know, their existence or something.
Yeah, I so hear you. And I think what I love how you talked about the enthusiasm and just like writing as a devotion. And, you know, for me, I have a similar thing that, you know, invested in the programs. And I've never, ever, like for me, personal development, education, continued education has always been a priority in my life, always. And there's not always the funds as many as you want for all the programs you want. You obviously have to be like, okay, I can afford this one now, and I can afford this one now, and I can afford this one now. And, you know, I've shared with you the mistakes I made about overextending myself in the financial arena. And that gets very, very scary. You get through it, but it's not necessarily something I recommend for people. But I definitely, you know, I find also like the money work for me versus the sexy work, there's a blur, because I find like I love teaching yoga. I love teaching workshops and running retreats and training teachers how to teach. I find that sexy in essence, you know. So I feel really blessed, and I think you have a similar situation as a musician.
Yes.
Because the work that we are doing for our financial well-being to bring in the money, we also really enjoy it.
Yes.
Like we're good at it and we enjoy it. And I think that's an extra added thing that a lot of people are good at it, but they don't enjoy it. You know what I mean? So like, I feel really blessed. And I think you have this, like I said, I think as a musicians, you know, you have a joy about what you're doing too, even though it may not be something that you always want to do for the rest of your life every single day, because it's not fully feeding your soul necessarily. Right.
Yeah.
And so for me, I also found that the enthusiasm gets drained out of me when I start, when I spend so much time on the sexy work and just get so anxious and eager that I really want this to take me up. And like, I really want this to be what's supporting me. And I want the whole picture to come together faster, because I'm a very impatient person, you know, and that's after 25 years of yoga. You know, and essential oils and all of those things that I could be doing to help calm me down and chill me out and keep me present, you know, meditation, all that. So my impatience and I don't even want to call it impatience, my excitement and eagerness to see my finished creation living in the world, right? Whatever that is, whether I'm writing a book or creating a program or building my business, you know, there's still the practicality of it. And I found like this was something, and I some of you know this already, those of you listening and watching, is, you know, I closed my business after 15 years. And there is a very big, it was after 15 years, I closed my business. I had finished my coaching program. So all of the financial stuff was like really scary, because that chain, like I had spent money on a program, I closed my business, and I was like, well, I have to rebuild my support system financially. And I had the risk of doing the money work and making it same mistakes over again in a different chapter. And I refused to do that. Thankfully, I was present enough and had done enough self-discovery work and the inner work to recognize, like, whoa, don't recreate the same thing. Like, you close the chapter so that you can create something fresh and new. And I actually had to step back for like a good 2 months. I stepped back and I did even deeper work to really get through those pieces that are emotionally connected to women, particularly like self-worth, self-care, wanting to be taken care of, victimhood. Like, these are things that I'm sure if any women are watching that can relate. Like, we've all experienced this at some point, and I'm at the point now where I'm not afraid, thank God, 20 seconds of courage, right? Like, I'm not afraid to really admit, like, these are emotions that I have, because we're both light and dark. We can have good and bad and still be amazing people and serve others. And, we're all on this path of humanness, right? Divine humanity, right? Human and divine.
Yes.
But I definitely found myself like, I don't want to go down this path. And I was so like, with my enthusiastic, sexy work was my goal. Like, that's what I want to do. I want to do the sexy work. I want to do the sexy work. I don't want to do the work that needs to bring in the money. And that wasn't taking good self-care, back to that self-care idea. So I had to step back and out of my whole experience completely and realize that what I really needed was to stop thinking about it. Like, I had to do something completely different, which is when I got 2 part-time jobs. So I'm still doing my sexy work through my yoga, and I'm still taking the time now. I have more enthusiasm for my writing and my other projects. So it's exactly what you said, Claire. Like, and now not only am I doing something that I enjoy doing, it's fun, it's completely unrelated to anything else I do, but it's supporting me with the extra the ease with which now I can open up and allow that flow and that inspiration to come through. And I think that it's so easy for us to forget that when you're tight and you're squeezed financially, nothing can flow, right? Money is currency, currency is energy. And that has to flow. It's like breath in, breath out, breath in, breath out. And people want to hold it. And if you hold your breath too long, we all know what happens.
Yeah. Yes. No, so, absolutely. And I think everyone has to make their own decisions about, where their boundaries are, what they're comfortable with, what their focus is. Some people like to be high risk people, fine. And for a while, I felt quite apologetic that I didn't feel that I could be a high risk person. I do take risks. I mean, I'm not in full-time employment and haven't been for 15 years, so obviously I must be taking risks somewhere. But there is a limit to the risks that I'm going to take. And I also felt a little bit, I felt almost apologetic as well, that I like the simple things in life. I decided I quite liked don't get me wrong, I don't like to do housework my whole life. You ask my husband, he keeps saying I don't know one end of a vacuum cleaner from the other. But but actually, that's slightly unfair of him, because I have discovered in recent years, whilst I've just been kind of just being in observer mode more and getting more grounded and more rooted, at the same time as me doing my financial journal and going, what do I need to bring in and how am I going to do it this week? I have also been more open to keeping, how do I want my nest to be? And so how am I going to be? And, as much as I would love to be able to hire a housekeeper or a chef, a chauffeur, or whatever. The reality is I can't. So let's just not even waste energy on that, because it's not where I am at the moment. And I'll be honest about that. But then secondly, the gift in that is I have spent a lot of lovely, quiet time energetically, creating my nest, my home, my sanctuary. And things have started to kind of come together for me. I had so many shoulds in my life from all my personal development from reading. You know, one moment I'm reading about minimalism, the next moment I'm reading about the zen of cleaning your home, and you know, and and I'm thinking, yes, I should be that. I should right. I should do 5 hours housework, and I should because then I'll be zen. And then oh, and I got to home cook all my meals because you know that's and I you know I'm all about healthy living, so I really need to model that. And I need to get up at 5:30, but I need to have 8 hours sleep. But I'm a musician, so I don't get in until midnight. Do you know what I mean? I was trying to do everything, and so two things have emerged that are really important for me. One is making choices for me, not from what I've read or not from what some guru says that I should be doing or a coach or whatever. You know, for me, the best coaches are the ones who say, what do you want to do? No, what do you want to do? What do you need to do? You know what I mean? And keep asking you that until you actually admit what it is that you need. So choice is really important. And then for me, doing the next right thing, whatever that is. So that helps me to slow down. So do I need to earn some money this week? You know, how am I going to do that? Do I need to, I don't know, just think, I don't know about you, but I used to get to a point where I felt I didn't even have time to have a wash or anything, you know. So it's self-care, you know, I was so busy because I had this thing to do and then I had this other thing to do and I was always playing catch up. And I feel that those two things, making a choice in the moment to do the next right thing, like weirdly, things keep like falling into place a bit more. Like I seem to be clean most of the time and my house seems to be relatively clean most of the time and I seem to be earning some money and it's not a drama anymore, but some sexy work things are appearing. I mean, to give you an example. So sexy work for me often surrounds or is to do with making music creatively. And I have been collaborating this year with a folk singer who has released a CD and is now doing various concerts. Anyway, so she'd written these songs and I was very lucky. She asked me to arrange them. So, you know, so on the CD, I had a whale of a time. I was playing my fiddle, I was playing viola, I was playing piano, I was doing some backing vocals, I was doing a bit of harpsichord at one point, you know. And how wonderful. I couldn't have written that brief myself, but it's arrived. And then she happened to send me a review that's due to come out in November. And it was so wonderful. And if I'd have set out to get that review, if I'd have set out to get that creative work, I wouldn't have achieved it, I don't think. But somehow it's arrived because everything else is in place.
Yeah, I totally hear you, because I think what happens is when you're taking care of yourself financially through self-care, all the big basket of what that means, self-care. And I want to include physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and financial in that basket, because I think that we've often put the financial thing in a different basket and it's all part of it. I think when your environment is taken care of around you, because part of the self-care is what you're doing, like clearing your environment. And I mean, I joke with everybody that watches this because my office looks really pretty from this view, but I'm in the process of a big, giant, tidy clearing thing. So you can't see what's below right now. Maybe one day I'll be brave enough to show you the process, but like, I haven't gotten there yet. But I definitely, like, when you clear your space, it creates space for it to flow, for energy to flow in whatever area you require it and desire it. And I think that that's something that people forget. Like, it's the same thing as holding on to the breath, right? Like, you need space for it to move in and flow out. And I think, you know, Feng Shui is such a genius. I don't know nearly enough about Feng Shui. I have a friend who's a Feng Shui person. Maybe I'll get her on here and she'll teach us some stuff about that too. But like, there's so much clutter in our lives, in our brains, like meditation and tidying. Like I'm a big proponent of Marie Kondo's life-changing magic of tidying up. Like I did that in 2018 and it was life-changing. I haven't finished it completely because it's a large progress. Like it's a big project when you start to get to paperwork. And if you're a teacher, especially, as you know, like I have curriculum and coursework. I'm a writer, so I've got like papers everywhere. So, and I've been able to donate books, but like my writing is really hard to sift through because there's a lot of stuff I'm not ready to part with. So, and I'm not a real digital person. I like paper and pen. But yeah, and I really love what you said about like choosing for you. I think one of the two questions I ask myself a lot are, what am I feeling? And what do I need right now? What am I feeling and what do I need? And I think that's an important thing also as a coach, we ask our clients that, like, what are you feeling and what do you need? Because we know, like, ultimately we know. And if we get 20 seconds of courage to be able to like admit that and really get clear on like, what do I need right in this moment? And it can be moment to moment. Well, I think sometimes we try to bite off, you know, the expressions, don't try to eat the whole elephant at once. Like we try to bite off more than we can chew. And it's just like, just take little steps. My friend last week said, I shared this on another video. My friend said, you know, it doesn't matter if you're the tortoise or the hare, you get to the finish line. You know what I mean? Like, I thought that was brilliant. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And I'm like somewhere in between the tortoise and the hare. Some days I'm running. Some days I'm like, just gonna mosey on down, you know? The other thing that I really feel is important, whether you're doing, if you're doing money work as a means to get to the sexy work, or you're doing them both simultaneously, is to make sure that every day you're doing some action in the direction of the goal for the sexy work.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Every single day, something, it doesn't matter how small. If you're painting a mural, put a part, even if it's one leaf on a tree, like do something every day. Take at least one right action every day, because if nothing else this year, especially, I have learned what consistent action can do. Like really just, and it doesn't matter if you feel like it. That's the other thing. Like you don't always have to feel like it in order to take action. And I think, especially in our holistic world, where a lot of people can be like, well, I don't, you know, it's not moving me today. Like we can get very light, we can get very ungrounded because we're so heart-centered as humans. And we can be like, I don't really feel like it. Like the time it takes for me to talk myself out of doing it, I could have done it twice. So like I'm learning how to navigate my own brain of like my saboteur, like the part of me that goes, nah, let's go watch TV. Let's go binge that show. Let's go watch Handmaid's Tale. Let's go watch Netflix. You know, like I find that those three things have been, those three questions or those 3 points are like, what do I feel? What do I feel right now? What do I need? And did I take right action towards what I really truly desire today?
Yes.
No matter how big, no matter how small. And that is where you can find the balance between the money work and the sexy work, because you know that every single day you're still moving towards that sexy thing.
That's right.
Right? Because that's the thing that fuels the enthusiasm, as you said, which I love that word, right? I love that word. And I like how you defined it, like it's the divinity within us, you know?
Yes.
For those of you that don't know, and theos means with God, right?
Yes, that's right. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, this is so lovely. I'm so excited to speak with you. And I feel like I hope this has been valuable for everyone watching and continues to be something that you're enjoying, because I'm having a blast. And, you know, even if it's just one viewer, Claire, I'm like, I love being with you and I love connecting with you and I love having real conversations with you, you know? So
likewise, you know, and I have to say that, you know, I love listening to podcasts. I love listening to people talking, having conversations like this. You know, I imagine there are other people like me who like listening to other people, because, you know, sometimes it sparks something off. Sometimes you feel that you've learned something, or that you've seen something a different way, or it gets you more enthusiastic, or whatever it is, you know, if it's valuable in that way. And anyway, even if nobody's listening, it's hugely valuable to me to be seen by you, you know, and to share with you and to hear, you know, things from your side, and to hear, you know, because I think we're moving in very similar ways, and sometimes we express it slightly differently or at slightly different points, but you know, I think it's so great to feel, not only do we just feel an energetic connection, but there's kind of like a connection in what we're exploring at the moment. I love that when that happens. It's wonderful.
I know, it's very is this serendipitous, would you say?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I was going to say to you when you were talking before, that thing about taking a right action every day, and the thing of not going to watch Netflix or whatever it was. It's interesting for me because I not all the time, but I seem to have got to a place now where I can have that initial thing of I want to watch Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can have like the observer or whatever you want to call it saying, are you sure? Are you sure? And sometimes the answer is actually, yes, I've got nothing left to give or whatever, you know, fine. But often that second voice will make the first voice go, well, actually, it's not that I don't want to do it. It's that I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable because I've reached a wall, and actually I would feel better if I went and did 5 minutes. And
oh my God, it's so true.
Yeah.
So true. It is so true. And you know, I love that you said that, because I think it's an important point to make, that when because I get a lot, like my brain loves to sabotage me. My little kid is like, let's not do that. Oh, someone else will do it for us. And you know, like the little bratty child, like the little tiny kid inside of me doesn't want to do it, wants someone else to do it. Maybe mommy will do it for me, you know, or whatever we used to say as children. Some of those recordings still go on in our head. And I think that what's really fascinating to me is the key that, and I was just journaling about this, I just wrote this down, is that I find myself in the moment, like, let's say it's a workout. Like a lot of people I talk to, they want to get fit. They want to work, you know, this year I lost quite a substantial amount of weight through working consistently every day. And that wasn't just one thing. And I shared about that on previous videos. And the thing that I have to keep in mind is the end, like how I feel afterwards. What is the end result? How is it going to feel when I'm done? Even if like I don't feel like doing the whole workout, okay, maybe I'll ride my bike for 4 minutes or 3 minutes. I'll just go on the bike and I'll set a timer and I'll just sit on the stationary bike for 3 minutes and see what happens. Because sometimes when you move, I know, not sometimes, every time you move your muscles, your thoughts change. So if you get up, you go for a walk for 5 minutes, or get up, go downstairs, make yourself a cup of tea, sit outside in the backyard, and then come back in. Like take breaks, right? But for me, it's like when that I don't really want to, you know, yeah, and it's so great, like to identify like what's really happening here.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times for me, when my brain says I don't really feel like it, it's because my self-esteem goes, well, it's not going to work really long term anyway, so why am I really bothering? Like I really start to doubt. It's self-doubt, and it's self-doubt that can really destroy us and destroy all the good works that we're doing. Because and I want to say this, like, universe, people out there watching, anyone listening, anyone that can hear me, it's only going to happen through imperfect action. Yeah. Like, I wish somebody had told me that when I first started my personal development, when I first woke up and like opened my eyes out of the womb. Like, life is imperfect. You are imperfect. Everything you do will be imperfect, but imperfect action is the only thing that exists. Like, yes. You know, am I wrong? Like, we appear to be like, and I think that's like, and this is literally unfolding for me as I'm sharing it with you all. So like, I feel like nobody tells us that it's okay to be imperfect. we're so conditioned, or we look at other people, we see the highlight reels, not the behind the scenes. And I'm starting to realize like a lot of the behind the scenes are the same. They're messy, they're ugly, they're imperfect. They're like, there's a lot of failure. I read something today saying like, failure is not a bad thing. It just means you're living. The only other option is not taking action and not really living your life. You know? So anyway, that sparked like whatever you said, just like sparked something in me. I was like, oh yes.
That was great. That was amazing. And but also that you know, that word that you used, imperfect. While I was thinking about it, one of my other things that has been going on for me a lot is really questioning the polarity of life. So something's perfect or imperfect. Well, you know, something's black or something's white, or something's, I don't know, up and down or hot and cold, or yeah, sure, there are some distinctions, but that we can usefully make, like with labels. Yeah, sometimes, you know, like imperfect, like when you're saying, when I was born, I wish somebody had said that there's nothing but imperfect actions, and you're absolutely right. That was, and then I thought, what if we thought, rather than imperfect, which means that we go, oh, but then there's perfect. You know, what if we said something like, there's nothing but creative actions?
Oh, I love that. Yes. That's so, yes. And I love how you made that distinction. Thank you for that, because I think that that's the same thing. It goes right back to what we started with. We're conditioned with labels. And when we say impossible, we think must be impossible, when really impossible is I am possible.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. And one thing is contained in the other. And yeah.
Right. Absolutely. You know, and I think dark and light, we are all of those things.
Yes. Yes.
So,
and we can hold two differing feelings. And I've been talking to people a lot about that. You can be both things. You can have both these things. You can hate and love. You can, you know, all we need to do is sit with these things and be containers and witnesses and let them unfold and choose the direction, you know.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So much more to talk to you about. Maybe we'll do a second sequel, because this was so much fun. I adore you. You are lovely, and you are so wise and talented and gifted. And I'm so grateful for you taking the time with me today. Thank you so much. I know it's later for you than me. Big hugs and kisses from the US to you and your family. Mwah. Thank you all so much for staying with us. I know it's a longer video, but it's well worth the watch. And please, please, please post your comments in the thread below. Claire and I will poke in there and answer any questions you have. We are so happy that you've been here, and hope that this was inspiring and motivating for you, and helped you see a little bit more that whatever is happening for you, you're not alone. And that's all. I'm going to sign off here. Thank you all so much for being here today, and I will see you next time. And one last thing I want to say is, keep your eyes out next week. Claire and I just started talking about money, sexy money, and how she was logging her money. And it's so brilliant that you brought that up, Claire, because next week I have a conversation with Carrie Donegan, who's going to talk to us about financial literacy. And it wound up being a surprise webinar. So check it out. It's going to be really super cool. And then next week, I'll be talking to Lorinda Walker about money, mindset, and myths, and so much more. She's an amazing massage therapist and a holistic healer as well. So I can't wait to see you all there. Mwah! See you next time. Thanks, Claire.
Thank you. Bye.